Hello, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, today we're looking at a very foundational concept, a very foundational idea that we're very, very tempted to run from and deny. Now, you could say this about every single video and every single lesson here in A Course in Miracles. Every single conversation is, in fact, foundational. Here's the idea that we're working with today. It's that you are responsible for your own sight. Your neighbor is not responsible for your own sight, nor is your dog, if you have one, responsible for your own sight. You are. We all are. It's a very simple idea, and it's one that we choose to deny over and over again. So it's no surprise that A Course in Miracles, a universally themed and universally applied course, a self-study curriculum, it is absolutely no surprise that this curriculum would stress our own responsibility for sight, our own responsibility for what we experience. One of the most often quoted ideas from the workbook for students is the lesson that says, I am not a victim of the world I see. Well, you're not. We love to play the victim. And whether you are doing it right now, and a lot of people do it all the time, it's their habitual tendency and it predominates. You may be one of those people, and it's quite likely that if you're not, you know people that are. You have family members that play the victim card constantly in life, and they're not happy. May have friends, you may have colleagues at work that do it. I mean, it's quite common. We think that we're a victim of the world. We manage to convince ourselves that the world is coming at us, that it's the government's fault, for example, that we're not happy, that it's the world's socioeconomic systems and their bizarre interrelations and interplay that looks really complicated. We're managing to convince ourselves that that makes us unhappy, that that's responsible. The weather is responsible for our plight, for our state. We're the supposedly innocent victim of this giant, giant world that's out to get us. We manage to convince ourselves of this, and it's not true. It simply isn't true. And what it takes is honesty to sit with, digest, and accept the idea that we're talking about today, that each and every one of us is responsible for our own sight. Our neighbor is not. We are, each and every one of us. I'm fond of saying that spirituality is for grown-ups. It is. Is it not? Of course it is. It's an adult endeavor. Why? Because along the way, we discover what we're talking about today, that we're responsible for our own experience. This can most certainly be denied as long as you like. But it's a very simple idea. It is. It's very simple. Each and every one of us is responsible for what we see. We're the ones responsible for our own experience. Again, someone else is not. There is no one else. Who is responsible for your experience? Yeah, yeah, you are. So, once again, this is one of these fundamental ideas that permeates A Course in Miracles quite naturally. Specifically, we're going through the text here. Chapter 21, Section 2, the responsibility for sight, paragraphs 1 and 2. If you're following along, which is always invited and encouraged. Yeah, and it's no surprise that a self study curriculum like this course would emphasize our adult responsibility for our own experience. We don't want to believe it. I mean, you may be going through these thoughts and these feelings of abject denial right now. It's entirely possible. I mean, we've all done it before. That's why this discussion appears to be happening, because we need it. And as always with spirituality, it doesn't matter how many times you've heard this idea before. Today could be the day when it really sinks in. It could be the day when you accept it and allow it. Maybe right now. Hence the repetition. And A Course in Miracles is not the only spiritual tradition that invites us to take responsibility for our own experience. It's far from unique in that regard. But that's what this video series is about. So that's what we're talking about here. All we have to do to set this vast unhappiness aside is give the Holy Spirit what's referred to as a little willingness to follow our inner teacher's guidance. Just a moment, if that's all that you can manage, even a fraction of a second of setting your own desire to control all of life aside and allowing the Holy Spirit to enter and direct you and guide you is enough. The Holy Spirit's efforts are always maximal and they're always available to us. Why? The Holy Spirit is not outside of us, it's part of you. It's not some high and mighty thing that's outside of you. There's nothing outside of you. The Holy Spirit is part of our mind, always accessible. All we need is to open up for our inner teacher, for him, for it, this little willingness to extend love to our brother, our little willingness to follow the guidance of our inner teacher. This is all that's asked of us. And in return for this very small thing, we get everything. We'll not find in the world a situation at all where we get so much in exchange for so little. Now, when we accept responsibility for our own sight, we can most definitely expect resistance. All resistance is of the ego, all of it. All of it. And it, of course, takes many forms. It can take the form of judging this pixelated image on your screen, which is what you're looking at after all. It's possible that it takes the form of judgment of all spirituality. But you may think, oh man, I don't know. I don't have time for this. Well, you might think this course is ridiculous. You might think it's all just a complete waste of time. I don't know. I mean, many thoughts can come up. Yet inevitably, we find ourselves drawn back. That is the Holy Spirit speaking to us. And it is, as you may recall from the very most recent video, which I invite you to see if you haven't yet, we all recall who we are. We remember, even if it's very dim and fleeting. You know who you are. You know where you are. You know what you are. Hmm. Not this. So it's very powerful to accept responsibility for your own experience. It may seem bitterly difficult at first, or at the thousandth attempt at it, it still may seem bitterly difficult. Again, we can expect resistance. All we need to do is ask the Holy Spirit for help, ask the Holy Spirit for guidance, and be willing to receive as we have asked. That's what's going on here in the world. We're always receiving what we've asked for. Now, at this point, we may protest and say, yeah, I didn't ask for war. Yeah, I didn't ask for all the drama in my life. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for that. Well, the world we appear to see is an outwardly projected picture of an inward condition in our mind. We see what we want to see, and herein lies the sheer power of this idea today that we're responsible for what we see. Change our mind about what we wish to see. In paragraph 2, there is a very, very powerful, and I'll paraphrase here. I invite you to read it verbatim and repeat it over and over and over again. Paragraph 2 here, section 21, or excuse me, chapter 21, section 2 of the course, paragraph 2, right in the dab smack in the middle, is a set off and italicized passage that we're invited to repeat. And to paraphrase, I'm responsible for what I see. I'm responsible for everything that appears to happen to me. I set all of the goals and everything that appears to happen to me, I asked for. I receive as I have asked. So ask for the peace of God. Ask for love. Ask for the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Ask, and you do receive instantly. This is a little willingness. This is that little willingness. The Holy Spirit rushes in. Now, what we have to do there is just trust that we have received the Holy Spirit's guidance instantly. If you asked just now, you did. You received it simultaneously, instantaneously. What then we must do is accept the gift. A gift that's given is received instantly. It may not be accepted by the recipient right away. In fact, significant delay is possible. One very, very powerful and common example that we see in our daily lives is when we forgive somebody. We truly forgive along with the Holy Spirit, the way this course teaches us to do it, and their behavior continues unabated. Common enough, yeah. Doesn't mean they didn't receive the gift of your forgiveness. Doesn't mean that they didn't receive the love of the Holy Spirit. They have simply not accepted it yet. And there may be quite a delay in their accepting it, but the gift is there waiting for them, awaiting only their acceptance. We are responsible for what we see, but here's that tower that we keep talking about over and over. Since we're responsible for what we see, what do you imagine would happen if you let the Holy Spirit guide you? If you continually, habitually choose the Holy Spirit instead of the ego? We're all invited to do this because, as always, we learn this course best by doing it. That's really how we learn. There are many temptations to delve into this material with the intellectual, rational, so called rational thinking mind, with our intellect, which is divisive and incisive by nature. It parses things, it parses our experience into apparently separate component parts. It slices and dices. And we worship it here in the world. I mean, I have a doctorate degree. I've worshiped at that shrine as well. I have prostrated to it, so to speak. And I've got my big fancy piece of paper to prove it. And a lot of suffering that went along with that. Some of you may know about that, and if you don't, who cares, right? It doesn't make any difference. This course is universal. It doesn't matter if you went to school a day in your life. Who cares? I mean, really, universal means universal. All inclusive means all inclusive. This is for everybody because these messages are so simple that even a PhD can understand them. Should this person choose to understand them. The resistance that the ego throws up is loud and it's sometimes constant, isn't it? We all have days where we just want to put this down and never go back to it. And we want to attempt to understand everything intellectually before we do it. That is a great delay. And, well, if you're doing that, I mean, you would know if you're doing that. It's a self-study curriculum. We learn it by doing it. It doesn't make any difference if you understand what's being said or not. You can still forgive. You can still extend love to your brother. Not sure how? Ask. Ask the Holy Spirit. It can be as simple as a kind thought or smiling at your neighbor and saying good morning. Is that not every bit as powerful as moving a mountain with your own thought? Is it not every bit as powerful as walking on water or raising Lazarus from the tomb? Or raising yourself from the tomb after 72 hours and then walking around and speaking to people that you were speaking to 72 hours prior? Is not that just as powerful? There is no order of difficulty in miracles. They're all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. So we learn this course by doing it. This is where the real power of the learning comes in, because our experience demonstrates to us these ideas are true. It shows us. And if you want proof, excellent. We're so fond of that in the world. Prove it. Okay, well, yeah, prove it to yourself. You prove this to yourself. You prove the truth of these ideas to yourself by doing it, putting it into practice, and really honestly doing it. Again, the theme of adult responsibility. There's real power in this. So expect resistance. You have help on the path. First and foremost, each and every one of us has the loving, kind guidance of our inner teacher. And you may also have people here in your life that you can talk to, that you can ask questions of. This pixelated image is one of those. I invite questions here. This is intended to be a vibrant thread of discussion. And thank you to all of you who have asked questions and left comments here previously. I really appreciate hearing from all of you. Questions are always welcome, as are just comments. And even if you wish to simply pop in and say hello, I'd love to hear from you. It is an international community, which is very cool. I mean, the internet is everywhere. The Holy Spirit reaches us in many ways. This is but one of them. All right. So if you have not yet subscribed, I invite you to do that too. That's the prompt in the corner of your screen. And go ahead and click that. Several videos appear each week because the Holy Spirit is always speaking to us. As always, the question, are we listening? Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in here. And again, questions, please ask them if you've got them, and I will talk to all of you very soon.